and welcome to another edition of Webinar Wednesday. My name is Brandon Lilly, Senior Brand Director for Marketing 360, and joining me today is Ken Salazar. He is our Chief Payments Officer. Ken, how are you doing?
I'm rocking and rolling, Brandon.
Excellent. Apologize, we got started a little bit late today. Some internet connection issues, but you know what? That happens. So today we're going to be talking about how to choose a payment processor, how to kind of learn about payments, credit card processing, everything like that. We'll dive into this. Ken obviously is an absolute expert when it comes to this. So we've got a lot of questions to go over, a lot of things to cover. If you want to follow along on this presentation, either now or afterwards, you can do that at m360.us/7df9. Again, that's m360.us/7df9. All right, let's go ahead and move on here. First thing we want to talk about, Ken, just give me a high-level overview. What is credit card processing? If we boiled that down, what exactly is that?
You know, at the end of the day, what credit card processing is just the movement of money electronically from the consumer's credit card issuing bank to the merchant, the business owner. Credit cards come in a few different factors now. It's a universal word. Oftentimes, most credit cards are people's debit cards as well, and they get commonly lumped, in which case the funds are being moved from the consumer's checking account to the merchant's business banking account.
Perfect. I know there's a lot of businesses out there that they don't want to take credit cards. They don't like credit cards, anything like that. But especially in the US, only 27% of households, or 24%, sorry, only 24% of households are cash households. So my opinion is that you're really missing out on some opportunity there if you haven't moved into this world of being able to accept credit cards. What's your thoughts on that?
Yeah, you know, we used to say that it would increase the average ticket of the merchant's business place by anywhere from 20 to 30%. So in other words, the theory was that consumers may not have the cash to purchase certain items, but by giving them the option to pay with a credit card or debit, well, credit cards in this case, it would enable them to make a purchase that they may not otherwise make. Another additional benefit is you look at accounts receivables. Oftentimes merchants have AR that's sitting on their books, or they've got bad checks that used to bounce back in the day. When you're taking the credit cards and debit cards, the probability of those funds showing up in your account the next business day is pretty high. So that's another advantage. More recently, though, it's about customer experience. The newer generations nowadays enjoy using their mobile phone, enjoy using the debit cards, enjoy using the credit cards. They don't even carry around cash. You go and ask them for $5 and they'll look like you're crazy, but they're more than happy to Venmo you, 20. So they've got no problem with that. So I think in today's world, the old school reasons still hold true today. However, I think customer experience is paramount.
I do exactly that. Anything that I do is all electronic. I pay with my phone. I use the Cash App. I use Venmo. You take an Uber or a Lyft around and it just comes right out of your account. You never even look at it. You take a taxi and they look for, where's the tip? Where's my change? I don't carry cash personally. So if I find myself in a situation where I have to pay for parking, I'm screwed, right? I don't carry anything other than a credit card or a debit card.
You just want the transaction to happen and maybe push one button at most, and then you're slightly inconvenienced.
Yeah. Well, and thinking about it in that way too, I've lost my wallet before, or I've wandered in someplace and gone, I don't have as much cash as I thought I did. It turns out I loaned a buddy money, or I spent a little extra somewhere and I was going to buy this thing, but now I can't because I forgot I don't have the cash that I need. I'm not going to go to an ATM and spend $3 or $4 just to get the cash out. Sure. So for me, it's all about convenience. And personally, I'll make the decision to work with somebody that takes a credit card or a debit card versus a cash only establishment. That in my opinion, changes where I shop.
No, I think absolutely. I was just the other day, I'd forgotten my wallet when I went to the gym and I needed to run by the grocery store, and I immediately sat there and said, I'm gonna have to go get my wallet and go to the grocery store. And I immediately paused and said, wait a second, I've got my iPhone and I can use this because it's got my Apple Wallet and I've got all my credit cards into this thing. So where did I go? I went to the nearest grocery store that I knew took Apple Pay, went in there, completed the transaction. It was quicker, faster, and I had wallets. So zero inconvenience to that business because I knew they had Apple Pay, earned my business, great customer experience, deal's done. I got the milk and bread.
It's super easy.
Yeah.
So let's jump down to our next slide here. And you've already used some of this jargon, and I know we're going to be talking about it more as we move on. There's all sorts of different nomenclature and different things that people use to describe this payment processing. And we're talking things like basis point, interchange fees, ACH, terminal, gateway, EMV, NFC, things like that. When we're talking about this, obviously it's all related to being able to accept credit cards, being able to accept debit cards, and that electronic funds transfer. But at a high level, what are we talking about with each of these words or phrases that people often use? I know for me, they can get confusing very quickly. So I want to make sure we get this out of the way so that as we continue to talk, we're able to bring some definition here.
Sure. And when you're looking at credit card processing at the highest level, you've got a rate, which is a percentage of the total volume that you're processing. Basis points are a percentage of a rate, if you will. You've got the fees, which come in two forms. One, you've got your transaction fees, which is per authorization or per daily settlement that transpire. There's usually a transaction fee or a per item amount that's associated with that, and that can range anywhere from a penny, a nickel to $1 or more. And then you've got the fixed monthly fees that are the hard cost of keeping that account open, and oftentimes gateways will tie into that. So, your fee and your ACHs are tied to those fixed transaction fees, if you will. The rate and basis points are tied to that percentage of volume that's being processed by you. Interchange is what's charged by the card issuing banks of the credit card holder in order to facilitate that transaction. So there is a hard cost that they incur in order for their consumers to have the credit card. And quite honestly, that's where majority of the funds that merchants pay are going towards, going to pay that interchange fee that's being charged by that card issuing bank. Point of sale, there's got to be a means or methodology to accept payment. And the point of sale, terminal, and gateway are all the platforms that enable the commerce and the transaction to actually happen. Terminals are those basic credit card terminals. Used to be the old knuckle buster, and then it was the Zon Juniors and these foreign looking square things at their cash register, and now they're much more sleek. Signature captures happening there. We already talked about Apple Pay and the EMV, which is Euro Visa MasterCard transaction. That's more commonly known as the chip card, and just a more secure transaction. That's the next evolution of what you're seeing, and that's where you dip or insert the card into the terminal. And NFC is near field communications. This is what Google Wallet and Apple Wallets and Samsung Pay are all operating off of, is that near field, getting close to the terminal, in which there's a radio transmission that happens and the transaction occurs.
Well, there we go. You just answered all the questions. Webinar over, right?
That's it. We're done. We're done. But at the end of the day, you take all of these together, and what really matters, or what should matter to the business owner, is what's my total overall effective rate, that means how much does it cost me to take payments and to run the point of sale and all these different items that are here. And that's what we call the effective rate. Bottom line, all in cost, everything associated with it, everything that you've got right here. How much does it cost me as a percentage of the total amount that I'm processing? I think that's what our clients and business owners worry about and are concerned about most.
Excellent. That actually brings us to our next slide here. We already talked about what a credit card processor is, kind of at a high level, and then you've started discussing these prices and the effective rate. And I know you've got here kind of the three key areas to evaluate when you're choosing or when you're deciding on who to work with or why you would switch payment processors, things like that. Now, I know I have a lot of friends that own small businesses. I've worked with small business and clients for years and years. And one of the things that we experience all the time is, phone calls and people coming into the store or coming into your retail location and saying, I can always beat your rates. I can beat your rates. I do a better job of payment processing. They're always knocking down the door to do that and to earn your business. Now here, obviously at Marketing 360, marketing360.com/payments, we are a payment processor. We can do this for you, but that's not what we're talking about today. And I want to use these three areas to evaluate when you are thinking about changing a credit card processor or even adding one in and beginning to take credit cards, what are the key areas to look for? And Ken, if you could just kind of walk me through your thought process on these 3 key areas, let's get started.
Yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, we just talked about it. The business owners care about what the bottom line cost is for them to accept is all forefront whenever you're talking about payments. How much does it cost me to process credit cards? And can I get that lowest possible rate for my particular business? When you go beyond that, now they're looking for customer support and client support. If the merchants aren't going online to some of the notorious online vendors that are out there, usually looking for a relationship, someone that can help them, not just this internet website that can process my payments. They're looking for someone that can be there so when they're actually short funds or if they have any questions about their statements, they've got someone that can help them. And preferably that's going to be someone that's based in the US, someone that speaks their language, that's available on our time zones, and that's readily available to answer their questions, not just via an email that sits in a queue or chat, or going to a frequent question zone. So that's that client support's critical. And then now more recently, it's all about the value add solutions. Most people are coming to payments and accepting payments through another technology that they're using to run their business. So they're going out and they find a technology that might be a point of sale system, that might be a website company, that might be some sort of other software vendor that they're using who has the credit card processing tied in. And so that software vendor presumably should be addressing client support and pricing structure, given that they are the value add solution.
Excellent. And that actually brings us over to our next slide here and kind of what we want to talk about more about pricing. We've got a question from Scott. Scott wants to know, how do you actually calculate your effective rate? So I say we go ahead and answer that question and move on to our next slide here, talking about the pricing structures. We touched on it briefly, the rates and the fees and things like that. But I think what a lot of people are interested in is, what am I going to pay at the end of the day? How much is this actually going to cost me? Now, we've already talked about the fact that by accepting credit cards, your average transaction rate can go from 10 to 30% higher. And obviously that's going to increase the overall value of everything, but there's a cost associated with it. Some of it is the interchange fees you already discussed. Some of it is, costs of the payment processor or maybe hardware costs. But let's talk a little bit about the pricing structure. And then a little later, I want to dive in. We've got actually an example, a live example from a retail store here in Colorado that we can go through and actually look through some of that.
Yeah, I think that's a great plan. When we get to that statement, I'll be more than happy to show the effective rate. Well, again, there are a few different price structures that lead up to that overall effective rate that we're talking about. Now there's the custom rate structures whereby, majority of businesses that, are getting at that, $60,000, $50,000, $100,000 plus annual revenue in credit cards. They're usually really good candidates to look at a custom pricing structure that would really help their bottom line. Prior to that, and getting to that level of revenue, you may be starting off at someone like Square or Pay and looking at a flat rate structure. You just want something that you want to know what the total cost is going to be to your business, that 3%, that 2.5% to accept that payment, and you don't want to have to worry about anything else. Nowadays, also, there's something else called a cash discount program. With the decreasing margins of business owners nowadays, they're looking for ways to enhance their bottom line. And one way of doing that is offering a discount to customers using cash, but there's about a 3 to 4% premium if you choose to use your credit or debit card. And a lot of our point of sale systems just have that automatically built into them. So we just pre-program the POS, point of sale system, or to understand when credit card or debit card's coming through. That will be at the standard rate. And then if someone pays with cash, that will be at a 3 to 4% discount, cash or ACH in an online environment. And then obviously you've got the meter beats. It's really important, evaluating. I mean, one thing that you want to make sure if you're looking and evaluating other credit card processors, at the very least, they're a meter beat, and meaning they're going to meet your current rate structure, or they're going to beat it. And I think that's more prevalent, more relevant when you're looking at working with a software technology company that's going to assume your payments figures, because you're coming to them for the software. And sometimes it's true, because you're coming to them for the software, you don't really care what your rates are going to be on the credit card side of things. So it's important that you're able to have the option, or at least that your eyes wide open into what you're paying to accept payments, in addition to the costs that are associated with the platforms of the software to do so.
I think that makes a lot of sense. Like you said, there's a lot of different options out there, and I think Square and PayPal are two great examples of there's a cost. It's flat cost per transaction plus a percentage, and that may be a value. That may be a great value. You know, if you're out and about and you just need to be able to accept payments, you know, right here on your phone, you add that little chip reader and you're all set. But then as you're growing, and as you're, you know, if you're a retail store or a restaurant or a service provider, you probably don't want that, because, and this is my assumption, correct me if I'm wrong, when you start looking at offerings like that, you're probably paying a bit of a premium, right? You're paying more for it because you don't really have any flex.
No, you're exactly right. When you graduate out of what we call those are the flat rate program vendors. Once your business graduates to a certain level and hits a certain volume, they are eligible to receive custom rate structures. And, you know, that 20, 30, 50, 100 basis points adds up as your volume increases. But additionally, oftentimes those businesses are now to a size where they want that customer support and that assistance and that advisory services that come along, or can come along with the payment processing, the payment processors that are out there. So that's where the support and value add products become very critical to the business owner. Absolutely.
Let's go ahead and move on to our next slide here. I've got some different examples of fees. We took this from a local business who accepts credit cards, and this is on the merchant statement from a credit card processor that they are using. So this will show different pieces that we're wanting to look at here. Now, walk me through these. This very first one is the processing activity summary. What are we looking at here?
Yeah, so this activity summary is usually within the first few pages of any merchant statement with any processor, and it's just a general overview of what has happened in the transactions, usually the volume that's tied to it, as well as average ticket. So what you've got here is on the left side, the card types. There's your American Express, Discover, MasterCard, Debit. So you can see all the different number of transactions, and you can see the majority of these transactions are in fact debit card transactions. That's to be expected. The average ticket, obviously, that's self-explanatory. It's the volume of that card divided by the number of transactions. We talked about the transaction fee, or in this case, it's called a per item fee. And this is a nickel that's being charged times the number of sales in order to come up with the fee that's tied there. And the discount rate. This is the basis points or rate that's being associated that the processor is charging on top of interchange basis points. So 0.25% is their profit margin towards processing these transactions. So in this case, at a nickel per item in 25 basis points in this activity summary area. And that yielded to $53.97.
All right. Excellent. So that right there this is essentially the profit, or what's being paid directly to the credit card processor, correct?
That is correct. And obviously, you know, when we say we're using credit card processor as a general term that represents, you know, every transaction is via credit card or debit card. There's the processor, and the big processors out there are the First Datas, the Heartlands, the Global Payments, the WorldPays, the Vantivs, I guess formerly known as Vantiv now WorldPay. And then you've got the banks, and the banks are the ones that partner with the processors, and they're the ones that move the money. So the processors are kind of the engine that facilitates the transaction, and then the banks are the ones that take that engine information, and then they process and move the funds from the credit card holder's account or debit card holder's account to the actual merchant. And the bank and the credit card processor are the ones that are charging that 5 cent and 25 basis points, as well as any potential resellers or software vendors that may be involved here. They're all sharing that 25 basis points and 5 cents.
Okay, let's go ahead and jump to our other slide. I think this is a little bit, this dives in more into what you were talking about from a different fee structure that's actually charged by the holder of the card. So these are the surcharges, and it's looking to me, and again, you can correct me if I'm wrong, is that there's different fees or different things that are charged based on the different types of cards. So not even just the category, MasterCard, Visa, things like that, but the type of card that's even being used.
Referred to in our jargon slide as interchange. These are the interchange fees, which are charged by the card holders, card issuing, credit card issuing bank, or debit card issuing bank. So this is the one commercials, and we see the you've got the Ace. Those guys are all very large card issuing banks, and they're the ones that establish and work on these interchange categories. There are over 300 different interchange categories. So given that our rates are based off of these interchange categories, it's not that we're trying to dodge the question. It's that which card type are you talking about? Because we've got over 300 different rate structures. And depending on which business category you're in, will dictate which cards you may be accepting, and then which interchange level they're going to be processed through. But if you just say you take the overall pie of a transaction and 100% of the total overall fee that's being charged, interchange usually accounts for roughly 80% of the overall expenses to the merchant. So we saw that these guys, if let's just pretend like a business owner pays, let's just keep the math easy for me. Let's just say they pay 1%. Well, we saw that the processor's charging 25 basis points. So that's 25 cents, or 25% of it. Interchange is usually going to account for a good $6 transaction amount. So you're going to be looking at another 70 basis points or 70% being charged on this. And then the card associations, Visa, MasterCard, American Express, and Discover will take up the remaining amount. So majority of those fees, these are non-negotiable. You cannot negotiate interchange. Interchange is interchange for every small business that's out there, and even the big box stores and the other folks that are there.
Mm-hmm. So I would say that even as a word of caution, because I've personally witnessed people that say, oh yeah, we're able to change we get better rates on the interchange fees or things like that. I'm guessing that this is a cautionary tale of either they're padding the numbers on top of it, or this is kind of they're going to lose money on you for the first month or two and then jack those rates up to make their money back. Yeah,
usually they can't do too much with interchange. We have seen processors bury some markup into interchange. It has to be disclosed, but one way is just Google interchange, Visa, MasterCard interchange tables, and then you can take a look at what the actual hard cost is for Visa, MasterCard, that interchange category, and then reconcile it to your statement, just to ensure that there is no markup being added in there. Generally speaking, when someone says that they're able to manipulate interchange, it means that they're able to get it qualified for a lower interchange category. So if you're taking hand, this is actually really important. So what can you do to lower your interchange categories? When you're having to hand key a transaction in, it's important that you just don't skip through the zip code or what we call the CV2 code or the expiration date when entering that credit card number. Same thing in an online portal. You want to capture as much of that credit card information as possible, because the more that you capture, the higher the likelihood of you qualifying for the lowest interchange category as possible, the lowest possible rate card issuing bank. Same thing with a swipe transaction. Anytime that you can capture the transaction and swipe, that means that we're capturing the holder data, or that is then increasing the likelihood that you are going to qualify for the lowest possible interchange category. Sometimes card readers, they go bad, they go old, and not all the information is being captured, but just enough information is being captured. That can cost the business owner at the end of the day, because the credit card will downgrade in interchange, and it will go from, let's just say, a 2% to a 2.4%. card and just not getting all that information. So it's really important in a card not present internet environment that you're capturing as much information as possible with regards to the expiration dates, CV2 codes, zip codes, street address numbers. And then in the in-store environment, you want to make sure that those readers are clean. You're able to process EMV and NFC transactions. That will help you qualify for greater transactions. And that if you have to hand key, that your cashier attendants are capturing as much information as possible. Those
are excellent tips. I love that. If we move to slide 9 here, we can actually see an example. This looks like this is the bottom of those surcharge fees or those interchange fees. Originally, we had looked at essentially what the credit card processor is making. Their profit was just shy of $54, and it looks like the remaining amount is $225, and that's going to the credit card companies.
Yeah, that's exactly right. And then we talked about you got $225 that are going to interchange, and as you'll see in the next slide, you've got our and the acquirers fees. Those are the dues and assessments that go to Visa, MasterCard, American Express, and Discover. And that's how those networks, you see Visa sponsoring the Olympics, and you see them advertising everywhere. They're a behemoth. They do a really good job. But they've got a large responsibility of ensuring that security is being maintained as best possible. And this is where they get their money. In this case, it's the dues and assessment fee is 13 basis points. So that's what this other fees section is showing us, is that last piece of the pie. We talked about the 25 basis points going to the processors and the bank, the processing banks. And then we saw that, a vast majority of that $225 was going to the card issuing banks in the interchange categories. And now you see where the last part is the assessment fees, and these are charged by those card brands. And it's about a 10% to 20% of the pie overall. So these are non-negotiable as well.
There we go. So when you're looking at it, especially if you're talking about originally working with those flat rate, you might go, well, 2.5 or 2.9 or 25 cents and 2.5%. That makes sense to me. That's okay, because it's just two numbers to pay attention to, right?
Right.
But when you're looking at this may be an opportunity to save money. And if you're increasing in volume and you either have a store or you're online or something like that, this may be a really good opportunity for you to save a couple of bucks or a couple of percentage or a little bit of that percent of your sale moving forward. So it may seem complicated. And Ken, I love that we've got this in here, because for me, it begins to kind of paint that picture. It seems complex. It's really not, because really at the end of the day, you can't influence this, right?
No.
Can't really influence the interchange fees, can't influence the fees that we're looking at here. The only thing you really can influence is the quality of work that you get, the kind of people that you're working with, the hardware that you're using to ensure you're in the lowest possible bracket, the safety bracket there. Yeah. And then also ensure that you're not overpaying for the privilege of using their system to process.
No, you nailed it. And I think when it all comes down, the statement does a good job. To address Scott's question, you would add up that $53.97 of processing fees on the first slide. Then we'd add up the $225 worth of interchange fees. And then I'd add up the $56.01 for the dues and assessment fees. And then usually there may be one more section that might charge you a statement fee or a web access fee or a gateway fee. And you'd add that in as well. And the sum of those different parts will add up to the effective rate to process the credit cards. Now, you can take that a step further and argue that you want to bundle in how much it costs you to run your point of sale, whether it's a $50 or $100, or maybe you own the software. You could potentially add that into your monthly overall cost. And there's a number of different ways that you want to do it, and there's no right or wrong way. It's just you as a business owner, how you want to track it. But an effective rate for credit card processing purposes on a statement would be the processing fees plus the interchange fees plus the assessment fees, and then any other miscellaneous fees. Add all those up, that's your total cost to process the given volume.
I love it. That's perfect. Let's go ahead and move on to our next slide. I think it's slide 11 here. And let's talk about the client support, right? It's very important, and I think especially in today's day and age, to have the support that backs up the software or the system or the processor that you're using. You know, I think we've all been in this situation where we decided that, okay, we're going to go for the bottom of the barrel, the lowest of the low, cheapest price possible. And I think every single one of us has discovered that making a decision or buying something on price alone does not always work in our favor. You know, we want to make sure that we've got the support also. So talk to me a little bit about client support and what you see as critical to a small business's success.
Well, you just saw, especially as the business owner's business grows, you saw how much time it took us to go through the statements, and we can do that on a monthly basis. Just, you know, talking through with the business owner on how their charges are qualifying and make adjustments as we go. That every few years we can count on technology changing and having that team that you trust, and you don't have to go this all over again. Know that's changing what's best in class out there for you, and bringing that to you. That allows you to focus on running your business, which, hey, at the end of the day, that's what business owners want to do. They just want this back end stuff taken care of so they can focus on growing their business, enhancing their business, optimizing their business, and taking care of their customers. So they don't want to worry about all this other quote unquote stuff. So that's why the client support's critical, is that you want a team that's not outsourced. You don't want outsourced support teams. You want in-house teams that you know, that you can talk to, that you're friendly with, and that care about your business. Your business oftentimes, especially, you know, you look at restaurants, business hours change. You don't necessarily want to have to conform your business to the processor's hours. You need to make sure that there is that after-hours support available. So, you know, you've got your core nucleus of folks, but then you want to make sure that if there's an emergency after hours, that you can get that taken care of, and that you'll be able to always be able to accept payments and take in revenue. Hold times. It's a fast-moving society now. We don't like holding for anything. So it's important that you're aware of what the customer service and the customer experience is. Is it a 30-second hold time, 1 minute hold time? Is it a 30-minute or 45-minute hold time? And that's not uncommon necessarily. So just be aware of what that, when you need the help, how long is it going to take you to get the help? That's pretty critical. And nowadays, we already talked about this. There are value-add solutions, and software vendors are tying payments to their product. Where is the support being? Is that in-house for the point of sale system? Is that in-house for the payments? Are they outsourcing that? When you have an issue, are you going to get the blame game and the point of sale company or your software company blaming the payment processor, and the payment processor blaming the software company? When you go to that one-stop shop, the buck stops there, and they're able to, you've got your one point of contact that's responsible for your account and ensuring that the teams in the office are communicating and getting your issue resolved, because that's all you want, is the issue resolved as quickly and seamlessly as possible. So it's important to be aware if you do use different vendors for different services, which there can be value in that, you want to know and have a process in place so that you're able to get the help when you need it. And if you like having that one-stop shop place, that's becoming more and more of a mandate and more common. And there are a lot of different folks out there that are doing it all in one spot.
Well, let's face it, if you can't take payments, that constitutes as an emergency on the part of a business, right?
They seem to think so.
I mean, not only, especially if God forbid it happen when you're trying mid transaction or trying to sell something, right? Yep. So now, not only are you not earning that revenue, but you've created a poor experience, and sometimes it's a first-time experience, a poor experience for that customer. They're not going to come back. And we already talked about 24% of American households, they're not paying cash for things. So, or they're the only 24% pay cash. So it's not like they can go, don't worry about it, here's some cash, right? So you mix maybe not being able to take payments goes down, or the POS freezes and screws up, and it's not working the way that it should. And you get on the phone, that customer's not going to stand in your store or at your food truck or anywhere else. They're not going to stand there for 30 minutes while you're waiting on hold, or they go back and forth between the software provider and the processor and trying to figure out what's wrong. So I want to brag on you for a second. I believe your team has an average of a 7-second hold time. Is that right?
Yeah, it is right. I'm very proud of the team. It takes a lot of effort and a lot of steadfastness, but yes, they pride themselves on being available and making themselves available. So yeah.
So I love to throw that out there. Check it out, marketing360.com/payments. If hold times concern you, a 7-second hold time is, I think that'll get you where you're going, right?
Yeah, unfortunately, the phone has to ring. Otherwise, it'd probably be less than that.
It's the phone. It's the problem with the phone system. That's what it is. So,
yeah, we're on a race to zero. But
we'll come back to this webinar later and make some efforts after we get the whole phone system figured out, and we'll just take all that over too.
Sounds good.
Let's move on to our next slide here, the value-added products. You've touched on this just a little bit, but let's talk a little bit more about how vendors can help simplify what the different offerings, and they can really bring some more value to the people that they're working with in the small businesses.
Yeah, we're finding now more and more that small business owners are making their way to payments via technology and via, as we call them, integrated software vendors, those folks that are out there. And so it's important that if you're out there searching for a credit card processor, knowing that there are a lot of other value-added vendors that are out there that are taking care of payments, what's the credit card processor doing that brings more value to you, more than just processing the transaction? And oftentimes that can be in the form of financing, getting capital loans. We call them cash advances. And you don't even need necessarily a personal guarantee. These are kind of nice because it's tied towards future receivables in your credit card processing. So not when you can't qualify or don't necessarily want to qualify for a traditional business loan through a bank, oftentimes it's great to know that you've got access to capital just through your future credit card receivables. And businesses are using this day in and day out, just as like an operating line of credit for themselves. Obviously, gift cards and loyalty cards, are you there and able to capture your customers when they want to buy a gift card and give the privilege of operating at your business or doing business at your business to someone else and sharing that experience? Are you enabling them to do that? We also find that when you do the gift card programs, that they're not going in and just using that $25 or $100 gift card. They're actually spending a lot more than what the balance is of that gift card. So that's a great tool to grow your business loyalty. Everyone's number one challenge is, how do I keep my customers, and how do I get more customers coming in? And that's where the loyalty and marketing services come into play. Loyalty, making sure that you're rewarding your great customers, your repeat customers, to get them coming back more often. And then also going out and using marketing to go attracting new customers to help grow your business. And when you bring those customers in, ensuring that they've got that great customer experience, and you've got a way to capture and track them and understand where they're coming and communicate with them, and ensure that they're being rewarded or feeling valued, that you value their business. So that's where those loyalty programs, and it goes on from there, whether it's CRM systems, whether it's websites and e-commerce, and ensuring the payments can process through the website. And it just continues. We talked about point of sale systems. Now, oftentimes, a lot of credit card processing companies are offering POS systems, or POS systems are offering payments. Again, ensure that you've got the support that's there. But all of this is kind of blending together, and you're able to kind of go to one spot now. And oftentimes merchants are expecting you to do more than just process credit cards for them.
Yeah. Well, you only want to have to make one phone call, right? You just one phone call, deal with what you need to deal with, because you're a business owner and you've got a lot of other things that are on your plate. So needing to remember 6 different vendors, 7 different reps, all the different people you've got to talk to, their numbers, their contact information. God forbid they're still at the point of going, oh, well, send me a fax, or do everything over paper. You just don't have time for that. Mm-hmm. So I agree. I think these value-added products is definitely something to consider when we're looking at payment processors. And one thing I kind of find interesting here is that you had talked about the cash advance, that kind of getting a loan on or operating capital based on future revenues. I know there's a lot of fear around that, where it kind of feels like a payday loan or something like that. But in reality, really, this is just a great way for businesses who are seasonal or have a lot of seasonality and a lot of ebb and flow in their business, to kind of ensure that there is a steady flow of capital and operating expenses in the bank account during those low seasons when they're preparing for the peak seasons. It doesn't have to be feast or famine. It can be very, level and just an easy, steady climb uphill.
No, I mean, you're absolutely right. Especially right now, we're finding a lot of merchants starting to come to us for cash advances, just getting ready for the holiday season. And, you know, without shamelessly plugging Marketing 360, they're getting the cash advance and saying, you help me start getting that going. Additionally, maybe they want to do a remodel and they want to get ready for the holidays again.
Ken, I lost you there for a second. Looks like you faded out on me. I think you're back now, though. We were talking. Of course, it would happen when we're shamelessly plugging Marketing 360. So let's do that spiel over again.
No, I was just saying that a lot of people are coming to us for cash advances now as they're getting ready for the holiday season. They're wanting us to tee up their marketing campaigns to prepare for that holiday growth that's coming in this looming fourth quarter. Additionally, maybe they want to do a remodel, you know, get their restaurant prepared and looking revamped and nice and shiny for what's coming in the next few months. So maybe they want to hire some additional people that are going to help grow their business more. So there's a very good, responsible way to use these cash advances and access to capital. I do not recommend taking a cash advance out and going to buy a new boat or a new car or going on a vacation, so to speak. This is something that you want to use strategically to help grow your business.
Yeah, no, I think you're exactly right, and you've zoned in on it there. Responsibly, this can absolutely be used very effectively, and I love that you're pointing out the holidays. We already know that people start planning their holiday shopping; they start spending all their money prior to Halloween. That's really when they're starting, and it's just going to ramp up from there. So if you need inventory, and you're not going to get the cash flow until October and beyond, but you need inventory now, then you better make that purchase now. This is a great way to do that. Another thing you had talked about was gift cards. Yeah, 70% of Americans, I actually looked this up earlier today, 70% of Americans want to receive a gift card as a gift for the holidays. I love receiving gift cards. I think it's great. There's a lot of value there. And I think the statistics are something like 30% of gift cards, 35% of gift cards go unredeemed. They're never used. So for me, that's always been I've always wondered, why don't you offer gift cards? You're almost just getting money and not needing to give anything for it as a business owner. But it's also so frustrating. You know, I called a business that my wife and I had visited when we were out on the East Coast traveling, and saw some shoes. She really liked them. I was like, great idea. You know, we don't have the time now, but I'll get a gift card. She'll order them. We'll get all that figured out, and I'll surprise her for Christmas or something. They don't offer gift cards. Why don't they offer gift cards? It's about convenience, and a small business owner has to offer different levels of convenience. So if you're going to work with a payment processor, work with one that offers these different value-added services, because you're going to need them.
Yeah, no, you nailed it. And I think I'll make us up my own statistic that 95% people would prefer just to give a gift card than have to go out and shop and actually have to pick something out, you know, only to have it returned. You know, there's nothing worse than that. You spend 2 hours going through all the rigmarole, find something, and then it's the wrong thing that they didn't want it anyway. So let's just get them a gift card, let them pick out their own thing.
Perfect. All right, well, we head over to our last slide here. Ken, thank you so much. I really appreciate you coming on here and educating us about payment processors. Going through that statement is incredibly valuable. For everybody watching, we have a lot of other videos, youtube.com/marketing360, videos on how to get more reviews. And we've actually even found that getting more positive reviews can increase sales by up to 18%. Different e-commerce marketing strategies, how to accept payments online. We've got videos on everything. So visit us on YouTube. Ken, again, thank you so much. I really appreciate it. Anything else you want to add or anything you want to cover before we head out of here?
No, we're excited to interact with you, whether you want to call us, email us, chat us from the internet, text us. Let us know if you have any questions. We'd be more than happy to help you any area that we can.
We've got a bunch of resources for everybody. Please be sure to like, share, and comment. If there's other videos or other webinars you'd like us to do, please let us know. We'll be sure to do those. Again, if you'd like to follow along with this presentation or access this afterwards, go to m360.us/7df9. Again, my name is Brandon. We're joined by Ken Salazar, Chief Payments Officer for Marketing 360. Go to marketing360.com/payments, check it out, and I'll bet you we can meet or beat any rate you've got. Thank you guys so much for watching, and happy marketing.